Shalom and welcome to Practical Spirituality here at Aish Torah in the old city of Jerusalem, overlooking the Temple Mount. And today's an interesting day to be giving class because right now going on in Jerusalem, or I guess starting soon, I don't know when, started already, is the I'm not even sure what you call such a parade because it's got a lot of initials. And it's a parade that's in honor of, I guess, I'm not sure exactly what, but I guess the rights of people to express themselves how they choose sexually. Now, I mean, if anyone told me, I mean, I'm already used to it every year, but if anyone told me that, like, to begin with, that people are going to be marching about such things, I just would never understand that. You know, like, these seem to be private things. Like, this should be more of a private issue. There are rights issues. Like, for example, the hot one nowadays is Israel does not allow surrogacy for men, only men. Oh, and women are allowed surrogacy? I don't think women are allowed surrogacy here, are they?
Yeah,
they are. Wow. Okay, so there are certain amounts of levels of rights, and also Canada. I don't know if all of Canada, but I everyone knows the famous Jordan Peterson issue with Canada is that they wanted the right to be able to be called whatever pronouns that they choose to be called, but they wanted it legally. You know, they wanted a legal right such that you could be prosecuted for not using those pronouns. And so I imagine there are some rights around. The right to have like a gay wedding cake, you know. I know that showed up in the news once or twice. So there is some level of rights for such a parade. But the other, I imagine though, when I think about it, is that it's connected to something else altogether, and that is it's connected to sexual identity in general, meaning it's a outgrowth of sexual identity. So sexual identity is even though we all consider that, especially with social media and academia and media in general, television and networks and also the more left-wing government politics, that we see sexual identity as an actual term that's a valid term today. When in fact what you'll see within the first few minutes of this class is that terms of sexual identity in general is a strange thing to even have as together, sexual and identity. And the reason why is because whenever someone has what's called a normative sexual behavior, and what I mean by normative is natural, meaning in general, the animal population is males like females, females like males, and the human population generally it's males like females, females, males like males. And interestingly, in homosexual couples, there's almost always a male and a female, which is something interesting, and we'll discuss that in a little while. But but in other words, males like females, females like males. It's like batteries. The plus goes to the minus goes to the plus. Like these things tend to get along, masculine and feminine. And in fact, the whole world really is masculine and feminine. I mean, the masculine is the asserter, and the feminine is the receiver. And so, like, I've asserted water into these cups. The cup is the feminine. The water is the masculine. Your tables are all held together by screws. My buttons are masculine and feminine. The windows are masculine. The window frame is the feminine holding it there. So masculine and feminine it's a built-in. It's part of reality, and it's also in both Judaism and all mystical traditions is a major theme. Everything's like masculine and feminine in Judaism, meaning where everything's always a connection between what's called Kudsha Brichu, the Holy One, blessed be He, which is called the masculine, Ushchinte, which is the feminine, which is our physical world, and so the whole point of Judaism is to cause a uniting of masculine and feminine, and also God is referred to almost always in the masculine, not absolutely always, but 98% of the time referred to in the masculine because he's causing creation. He's asserting this place into existence. And creation is referred to in the feminine because the creation receives God's creation. And then that brings us to interesting subjects like how do men deal with, how does Judaism approach men? Because we're not in very good shape, us men. Because God's causing and we're causing. We also like to, urinate on every lamppost we walk by. We're trying to mark our territory as much as we can. We want to assert ourselves on this place. And it's painful for us men to know that no one will remember us 100 years from now, just like none of you remember anyone from 100 years before, even your own blood, your own family. You don't remember 100 years ago. And no one's going to remember you either, or me. Maybe if I record enough of these, maybe 100 years from now, someone will be like, yeah, there was this thing called digital video, and I don't know, I think maybe we could archive something and find, hey, there's Yom Tov Glaser. But otherwise, I doubt I'm going to be showing up 100 years from now. I highly doubt it. Which for women, it's like, honey, let's just enjoy the wine by the fireplace, man. Relax. By a man, it's sincerely painful to know that nobody's going to remember us, no matter how big a splash we make. Now, anyway, so men have an issue, and that's why in Judaism, men have specific commandments that are there to, so to speak, feminize us. We have to strap ourselves down. Yeah, we got a little bondage. Yeah, we got to bind ourselves to God. Like we're literally binding ourselves to God with leather straps to God. And interestingly, we wrap 7 on the arm, which represents the feminine. 7 is nature, the whole feminine. In the whole physical world is going to be in sevens. That's 7's the world of nature. And 6 in Hebrew is the world of vector. It's the arrow. That's why a man is looked at like that, like a vector. And that vector is called the vav. Okay? That arrow is called the vav, or the 6. That letter is called the vav. It's a connector. And that's how a male connects to females via his vav, via the vav. That's the connector. And it's called actually vav hachibur, vav of connection, the connecting vav. And that's also its definition. Like, what does the vav mean before a word? Vi. What's it mean? And it connects it connects this with that. Okay, it's the connector. And that's the man. The man is the vector. He is just you could call him the implementer, but he implements things. But that's the nature of men, and it's an interesting nature. It's a powerful nature. It's a conqueror nature, but it is not a very stable nature. It's a nature that requires a woman. And the woman is the 7. The 7 is wholeness. Everything, all nature comes out in 7s. So you have even space, like this room, for example, that we're in right now is, that wall, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 is the center. And that's the woman is the center. She's the vessel. That's the 7. Is the vessel that holds all of us inside this room. And 7s is the octave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay, it's the octave. It's the rainbows in 7s. And the weeks are in 7s. The moon is in 7s. And even females work in 7s in their reproductive organs. Everything's 7s. So women are 7s, and it's a very stable number. 6 is a very not stable number. And it's also a dissonant number if the tone, if the tonic is I think the 6 is like sorry, never mind. The 7 is the dissonant. Yeah, never mind. 7's dissonant in that one. But there's only 7 notes because the 8th note is back to the first note. That's the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here it's dissonant. It's actually a symphony by Leonard Bernstein called Chichester Psalms. And the very first note of the whole symphony is Do, Ra, Haneve. It's easy to remember that one because it starts on a 7th. There's almost no song in the world that starts with a 7th. Anyway, that's my own craziness. Let's get back to... Can you mention a symphony with a 7th? Nah, it's the only one, really. Anyway, so anyway, but that's the 6. And men are 6s. We're 6s, and we need that 7, and we actually wrap our tefillin. When we bind ourselves to God, we actually wrap 7 wraps around our forearm, which is going to that stability. Not only that, but we put a shin, a daled, and a yud. Shin, daled on the finger, and a yud is on the knot there. The knot that's always on the box there is the yud, which is that's order. Order is die. That it's enough. Like, enough already, boy. You know, like stop trying to conquer the world and let's like count your money for a while. You know, like, why do we have to keep investing when we're already rich? That's the nature of man, is that he's just going to go further into chaos. Well, we put the shaddai on our arm, you know, and it's also on our mezuzahs, because when you go out of your house, you know, there's no more rules out there. I mean, you have rules, but the world doesn't. And so you just touch that mezuzah and just give a kiss and go out, because you're going to take the order of your home. Your home represents order. That's where you limit things. There's rules in your home. There's etiquette in your home. There's ways things are done, the way things are not done. Once you go out there, I mean, there's no rules. Maybe Jerusalem has some rules. Maybe Monroe, New York has some rules, but the rest of the world doesn't have any rules. And so you got to hook up with that mezuzah when you leave your house. Always hook up with your mezuzahs. You see them in the gates. Jerusalem at least has them in the gates. It's everywhere. So whenever you see those mezuzahs, man, you're hooking up to order, because Jews aren't random, man. We're not coming off some how do you call it, a PO, a public opinion of what's right and wrong. We're coming off ancient order, and we like that. Now, how do we do chaos? How do we do the crazy chaos? We study Kabbalah. You study Kabbalah, that'll spin you out. You spin out on some Kabbalah, and then you come back to Shulchan Aruch, get back to the order. What is Shulchan Aruch? It says the set table. Well, what is a set table? Set table is a table full of order. And so we study Shulchan Aruch, we keep Shulchan Aruch, we have the order. And when we want to go meditate on names of God, or study Kabbalah, or you know, some ecstatic prayer, so that's where we start getting wild. Or the holidays where we're partying hard, like Sukkot and stuff like that, where things get crazy. And they really do get crazy. In fact, we have 3 days after every holiday, you know, or at least Pesach and Sukkot, we have 3 days of repentance for anything like any knucklehead maneuver we might have done under the influence of partying too hard during the holiday, called Bahab. Now, which in the old days, people used to fast on those days. It was 3 days of fasting after. Bahab stands for 2-5-2. Monday, Thursday, Monday. 3 days of repentance for having gotten too out there. Now you got to kind of pull it back in. Same thing like Shabbos. I'm a very healthy eater. You can probably see I'm not like eating Twinkies, you know, between classes. And if you heard what I ate today, you'd just be like, how do you subsist on that? It sounds like something a horse would eat. And I still think there's some chia seeds between my teeth as I speak right now. And but I'm an Ashkenazi guy. I like to eat the Ashkenazi foods on Shabbos. But come Sunday, I come back to myself. I pull back in, and I cleanse throughout all of Sunday. And by Sunday evening, I go back to regular food. But I do a lot of cleansing for that. So I don't mind partying, but I'm certainly going to take really good care of myself the following day. Now, what we're going to see here is that there's something fascinating, and that is that the term for someone who deviates from the sexual norms, is called if it's a woman, she's called a kadesha. If he's a man, he's called a kadesh. Kadesh, male, kadesha, female. So someone who deviates from sexual norms, again, is called a kadesh or a kadesha. Now, what's interesting about that? What does that word sound like? What does kuf daled shin stand for? Yeah, kuf daled shin stands for what? What does it mean, kadosh? Okay, it means a couple things. One is it means holy, and the other thing it means is separate. Okay, it means holy and it means separate. And you forgot you have another phone. It's all right. You won the technology challenge by not answering it at least. Yeah. That didn't mean let's pick up our phone, Mr. Addict over there. Don't worry, I'm not better than you. But I would definitely jump on my phone in a second. You know, perfect interruption to text somebody. So I wouldn't call myself an addict, but I definitely gotta I need to pause a little bit when it buzzes. Men's phone buzz, women's phones ring because we don't have purses. So, I mean, unless a man likes low self-esteem where he wants people to know he's being called, you know. But most men by this point, you know, realize that it's going to be a little obvious if your phone rings, you know, that you got issues. So that doesn't work. So it doesn't work either. So men just put it on buzz forever. You never have to turn it on ring ever, you know. And that's it. But women have pocketbooks, so they gotta find that thing. And the women with big pocketbooks have to up the volume. Yeah. So. What's that? They have ringtones. Okay, but men are a little behind on technology. They don't realize yet that that's obnoxious, and they haven't figured that out. I think a lot of observant men know because we pray in minions, and you're often gonna forget to turn off your ringer. So it's just when you get the phone, turn off the ringer and never ever turn it back on. You know, it's just no one needs to know how popular you are. And am I almost done with my cell phone rant? Oh, but you just can't believe that even in 2018, smartphones are around how long now? What year did they make the first smartphones? I mean, I had a Palm Pilot at one point, but it didn't have a phone. 2008 maybe? 2010? No one knows? Probably 2010, I think. 2010. So it's been 8 years. By now, shouldn't people have figured out that when you're gonna video, do it sideways? Otherwise, it doesn't post properly. And news stations cannot use it for much. You know, or it comes out like a chimney in the middle of the screen with, you know. I mean, I can just imagine the people over there on CNN or Fox, you know. Every time a video, they're like, something happened in Wisconsin. They're and there's a video, so they're like, okay, we got video, and then all they want to know, was it shot properly, or was the idiot just going you know, and so if the idiot was going like that, so we'll pay $1,000. If the idiot if the guy, not idiot, was holding it properly, like that, you know, okay, we'll give him 20, you know. So but it's I don't know how to convince people, you know, everywhere I go, there they are again. Well, it looks perfect on my phone. Yeah, try posting it on Facebook, bro. You know, try putting that thing anywhere. So anyway, by the way, if you're watching this, if you watch it later or whatever, you got a smartphone, if you don't mind sharing it, that would make things, it makes it better. Yeah, make it better. Take a sad song and make it better. Now, anyway, so the word the kuf daled shin is a root. That means two different things. One is holy and one is separate. But what's amazing is you'll see that everything holy is separate. Things that are holy are separate. For example, Shabbat, there's 6 days a week we work and do whatever we do. And Shabbat is separate. It's a separate day, completely separate, distinct from that. Okay, if you have, when you bring up your 10th cow of your cattle, it is now kodesh or hekdesh. It is separate. You cannot keep it around. You can't do the stuff you can't use it like you use the other animals. It's now kodesh. It's hekdesh. It's separate. It's to be separated. When women tithe challah, yeah, they take challah. Yeah, now that piece of challah that they tithe is kodesh. It's separate. When you take truma and meiser, the tithe of produce, it's now kodesh. It's separate. There's the nations of the world, and then there are the Jews. We are a separate nation. We are a sheep amongst 70 wolves. But we're also called the Am Kodesh, the holy nation. So holy and separate really do go together. Now, why are we calling people who deviate from sexual norms, which of course no one likes the term if you put it together, as sexually deviant, which all it means is you've deviated from heterosexuality, you know. So, which no one likes to say that, you know. In our generation, calling them sexually deviant is not exactly politically correct. But what we consider sexual norms, i.e. heterosexual, male and female, which is the way the planet generally works, although I'm sure there are gay people who've found like some monkey in like Africa that's homosexual or something, and that's their big proof. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But when you deviate from that norm, that's called sexual deviation, and the person who did it is sexually deviant. Okay? Now, what happens is when you deviate, something weird starts happening. And it could happen with a lot of things, but let's see what happens. Now, we're going to make a pie chart. And there's a couple subjects we still have to nail, and one of them is that one of the subjects we're going to have to nail afterwards is that desiring your gender is not forbidden in Judaism. So who's going to remind me of that? Who want to be my secretary? Okay? Remember it? Okay? Now, when you look at the pie chart, so you see a lot of interest. People have a lot of interest, a lot going on. Like if you look at, if I think of my interests, like what am I interested in? So I really love prayer. Yeah, I'm definitely into the holidays. I mean, my name's Yom Tov, but it was not like, it's not because of that. Or maybe it is, I don't know, but I'm crazy about the holidays. Like, I'm insane. You know, I have to raise $10,000 to feed the 500 people in my sukkah with a live bandstand, keg beer, several lighting effects, smoke machine, and, you know, black light clubhouse, you know, and strobe light, you know. So, you know, like, I'm crazy about the holidays, prayer. I'm pretty into mitzvahs too. Really into Torah. It's Torah study, meaning actually studying it. But I do a lot of sports. So I'm into yoga, mountain biking, surfing, and of course I sound like the biggest jerk in the world because I haven't mentioned my family. But there's a lot of people there, and I can't even give them a slice because each one's a slice. So it's like, you know, we'll give this slice to my parents and siblings, okay? Because I'm involved with them deeply. And then, but let's just give this is gonna be like, that's gonna be my wife, she gets a nice big slice, and I don't wanna count, so we'll just go like that for my kids, you know. There's a bunch of those kids in there, you know, and which is wonderful, you know, it's the best thing I ever did, for sure, you know, like, that's why the first commandment of the Torah is to be fruitful and multiply. You know why God made be fruitful and multiply the first commandment? He figured when you'd read that one, you'd keep reading. Okay. As Rodney Dangerfield said, the best thing about having kids is making them. Okay. Now, the next is did I mention mountain biking? Did I mention surfing?
Yeah.
Did I say anything about beer?
I was waiting.
No, beer is very important. So beer is how we know God loves us. Okay. So I'm just gonna I gotta add more slices. So beer, I'm really into. And then I'm a little bit of a sucker for Mexican food, and it's a whole subject for me because it comes with tequila and Coronas and lemon twist inside there's other things I'm interested in too, though. For example, music. Like I'm really into music, and I play it live, and I play concerts, and I collect guitars, and you know, so I'm really into music. So we're gonna put music here, and then there's audio equipment. I'm a little crazy about audio equipment. So like for example, in my car I have 11 speakers, and it's just, I mean, any of you get a chance to get a ride in my car, it's fabulous. You know, I often just park and don't get out of it. You know, or like when I get to where I'm going, I definitely finish the song. You know, until like people start running out of the building. You know, saying like, "What the hell is going on down there?" And anyway, but whatever, the interests just keep going, and there's many more because I'm a hiker, and you know, and I travel, and oh, not to mention I'm like a personal growth guru, and like run all kinds of programs around the world. I'm into stuff. Okay, I like stuff, and I also I put myself on the altar too. You know, I go to seminar growth. You know, I go to personal growth seminars, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm here to grow, man." And they're like, "But don't you lead these things?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't lead yours, so go to work." And I'm the guy crawling. I'm the guy like 12 hours later in fetal position with a pool of everything that's in my eyes, nose, and mouth. And I'm in a pool of it, screaming. And they're just like, do we call an ambulance at this point? You know, because part of being a personal growth guru means you got to be if you can't ask others to do that if you're not doing it. You know, you can't ask somebody to go there if you can't go there. You get that? So I go there, and I bring other people there, which reminds me of two things. Which, sorry to plug these right now, but we have a women's seminar coming up only once or twice a year. Women's seminar coming up next Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, thepossibleyou.org. So I suggest showing up there. And we have a women's Hebrew seminar coming up in Elul as well. The women's English is Rosh Chodesh, 12th of August, I think. And then the men's seminars will be in October. And in New York in November. But what I wanted to share with you was I'm starting live webinars, which are going to be really amazing. You know, where we're all on screen together, and we're going to do like 3 hours in-depth work. So that's going to be something very special. And I just haven't figured out what the Hasidic women are going to do, except maybe turn off their cameras. Because I just can't imagine a Hasidic woman's going to want her face in a webinar, you know, all over everyone else's screen. So I guess we'll have, I'm not sure what we're going to have. I'm right now, we're dealing with the tech people right now and how we're going to deal with that. But everyone can shut off their cameras, obviously. Now, where are we holding? These are all my interests. Got my interests? What did I not include? Yeah, I did not. Did I include my relationship to intimacy? Did I include that? Tell me, getting to know me, some of you have been around me, like, is that something you think about as part of my identity? Is it something I think about as part of my identity? No, it doesn't show up. That's the point. There's no such thing as sexual identity. That's what I told you at the beginning of the class. It doesn't exist. Sexual identity, one sec, sexual identity doesn't show up. Is there sexuality going around? Well, those kids came from somewhere. Yeah, so yeah, there's definitely sexuality happening. But it's just not part of the equation. You know, it's something, first of all, extremely private. And it's not, you know, it's just not in the realm of knowing somebody. I mean, you know me. I hope you haven't been thinking about that. We've been hanging out for, a while. I mean, is this something you're thinking about? In my identity? Have you ever once thought about it? Never. It's just not, nor have I. I mean, it is definitely within the realm of a relationship of a husband and a wife. You know, that's part of things. But, you know, I also don't put in my identity that I wake up every morning and drink water, nor do I put in my, nor do I put going to the bathroom as part of my identity. There's just certain things that are biological realities. And it's a biological reality that doesn't touch my identity. A biological reality is not supposed to necessarily hit your identity. Maybe, and only maybe, that you're a man or a woman. Maybe if you're a man or a woman, like you can have an identity as a man, but I'm not sure that's even good because you're going to need a lot of feminine side if you're planning on raising children. You plan on raising children? Well, you better be developing the woman in you, man, because us men, we don't like changing diapers, and if they're crying, send it to its mother. But send it to its mother, whoever those two are, So, you better develop the woman in you. So, like, even identifying with your actual anatomy is questionable, because we gotta wear a lot of hats in life between the male and female hats, and you gotta wear them well if you want to make a difference. If you want to be a good parent or a good employer or a good employee, or do anything effectively, you're going to need both. Now, what happens if someone's involved in behavior? They may also have a lot of interests, but if they're involved in a behavior, and especially a sexual behavior, and I wouldn't even know that if it wasn't for this word kadesh and kadesha. If it wasn't for that word, I wouldn't know this. But apparently Torah is telling us something. And Torah is telling us that if you're involved in some kind of behavior sexually that is not normative, meaning it deviates from what the Torah says, and by the way, that could be anyone in this room. Because part of normative sexual behavior means with your spouse. And if you're Jewish, it means with your spouse who's been to mikveh after menstruation. You know, there's a lot of details there involved in that. What's up, gentlemen? I got a table for two right here and a single right there. Come sit up here. Come around for your single seat. Move the bottle and cup, please, for that guy. You guys came just at the right time. It's a drop-in course, by the way. No one fulfilled it better than the three of you. There are parachutes outside. You guys dropped in. By the way, in surfing, when we take a wave, it's called dropping in. Drop in, bro. No. Yeah. You literally drop in because the way you get up on a surfboard is not by pushing up like you see the beginners on the beach in Tel Aviv, where they're like, ah. You don't push up. You know what you do? When the wave gets vertical enough, you throw the board down the abyss, throw it down there, and you just get up on your feet. Meaning you throw the board into below. It's not you getting up, it's the board's going down, and you're just swinging your feet up and under. Got that? So that's why it's called dropping in. You drop into a wave. You don't do a push-up. There's no push-ups. You don't need biceps. You don't need triceps. You know, the triceps you need for paddling, but not for catching a wave. Okay? Catching a wave is a dropping. And just a funny thing that gets surfing so scary is that when the waves get bigger, they go faster. And what happens is your board's not dropping in. It's not dropping in. It's not dropping in. It's dropping in. And so sometimes you're airdropping into a 12, 15-foot wave because the only time it only let you in when it got vertical. And now you're airdropping into a 12-foot wave, which means you're gonna have to keep really cool. And nothing keeps you cooler than all the other surfers watching you, just waiting for you to wipe out so they can take the wave. Yeah, so for various horrible reasons, you make sure you don't fall. And most of them are egocentric and selfish. Because if anyone else rides that wave, you're just gonna be sick for about a week, okay? Now, by the way, I got rid of all that ego stuff in surfing. You know, like when I'm surfing, and normally when you're surfing, you never compliment anybody ever on anything they did, unless it was especially heroic. But I compliment everyone on everything. And the guy will look at me like, no one's complimented this guy in half a year. And I just say, you know, that it's called an off the lip when you hit the lip of the wave. I say, that off the lip, I mean, you were, first of all, you were vertical. I think you got 2 fins out of the wave, out of the top of the wave. And the guy's just like, well, thank you. You're welcome. You're a great surfer. He's like, what planet are you from? You know, with my payas and, you know. It's just like there was so much attitude for so many hours, for so many years, that it was like, it make you puke, you know, the attitude out there was so heavy all the time. Okay, back to sexuality. Now, when you're involved in something that is sexually deviant, meaning it's not heterosexual, and you're involved in that, what happens is it attacks your identity. Meaning it starts with just your, your private parts, and maybe a little internet connection, but eventually it just starts growing and growing. Now there's other factors why it grows so much, because first of all, it's usually started in secret, and secrets tend to fester. You know what I mean? Like when you're holding a secret, it makes you crazy. So oftentimes secret, but I know a lot of people that it never had to be a secret. You know, there was no reason for it to be a secret because they were from a family that was extremely accepting and not high standards of these types of things. So, but what happens is it slowly but surely takes over to where you live your life, and where you live, and what places you frequent, and how you dress, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it just, now of course I'm going to leave some interest, because people do have interests who are gay, or any other of the initials, but it starts to take over your life till you're making a parade about your genitalia. Which is really strange. It's really strange. Like, why would anyone have a parade? I mean, were you planning on having a parade for your genitalia? I don't think so. Like for the rest of us, we're just like, okay, like I understand different things you want, on surrogate parenting, and there's things you want, okay, you can petition, we have ways of dealing with these things in courts of law and various, things, Supreme Court, you got issues, so bring your issues up, but I don't think this is appropriate to be parading around. I mean, should we go make a heterosexual parade? Maybe we should have a heterosexual parade, but that would be the most crazy thing in the world. I mean, who would ever think to do such a thing? Because it's not part of our identity. It's not relating to our identity. It's not connected to identity. Sexuality and identity are two separate things. So a sexual identity is an oxymoron. Okay? It's not, you don't make identity around your biological functions. I mean, can you imagine, should we have the urination parade? I urinate, maybe we'll make a parade over that. I wouldn't want to be at the flatulence parade. Maybe with a gas mask or something, yeah. Yes?
It's very easy to say that, like, sexuality is not a big part of your identity when you're heterosexual, because it's not something that you're finding yourself having to fight against. Whereas if someone's homosexual...
Fight against? I don't know if you meant that, because you're incredible with your words, so I don't think you meant that. It's not something you would have to fight for, maybe.
Right, yeah.
Fight for.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
It's the first time I've ever heard you use a word you didn't mean. Okay, go on. So it's not something you'd fight for.
Yeah, but...
Because it's normative.
Because it's normative, so it doesn't. Why would it have to be a part of your identity? It's not something. It's not a big struggle in your life. It's just a reality.
Right.
Whereas when you have different feelings to the people around you, and you are, and it's not something that's.
It's not normative.
And it's not normative. Then it is when it becomes more of an identity, because it's something that takes up more of your headspace. For example, like if you're in a community that's not super left-wing and accepting, then you have to understand, think about, well, I don't want to have sex with the opposite gender, so then am I going to have if I'm going to be, especially let's say in the Orthodox community, if I'm going to be, I don't generally walk around talking about my sexual preferences, but if I then have a relationship with a guy and we have a child, as in, let's say a guy has a relationship with and then we have a child and we come to shul, then that's something, how am I going to deal with that? And there's so many different ramifications that you have to be dealing with, whereas if you're heterosexual, okay, so why does it have to be a big part of your life?
Right. So basically what you gave was much more of a sociological reason why it would become such an identity marker. And I give you that, I agree with you.
No,
but I'm giving more of it. One sec, I couldn't hear you, but I was saying, I think the same thing just from a really strong Torah perspective of Torah nailing the word for sexually deviant people they're called Kadesh or Kadesha in the Torah. You guys know that? It's the term is Kadesh or Kadesha for someone who's involved in sexual deviancy. Okay.
But then for me, that's why I think it is important that we do, for example, a parade or whatever it is, because it's not about, we're parading about our genitals. That's not what it's about. It's about appreciating the complexity of the issues and appreciating the struggle that people have to face. And in their everyday lives, I don't think it's about we're
and it's also you could say it's a very big support group for those people and the suffering they go through. Yeah. They go through a lot of suffering. I can tell you this much, that as much as I sound callous or whatever, I counsel a lot of people with same-sex attraction, all the way from it being their own little secret to fully. Some are married to people of the same gender, and I'm their Rebbe. You understand? So I'm involved in this issue, in very much, and it's not been easy at all because it's some of not the worst suffering I've dealt with. Obviously, trauma as children's the worst suffering I've ever dealt with, but we're dealing with one of the higher level, things that people suffer, and so I'd like to talk now about some interesting factors about this whole thing now. First of all, as we said before, that even homosexual couples, there's a male and a female almost always involved, where there's a dominant and there's a asserter and a receiver, and that is interesting for us in as much as Judaism does not forbid your being attracted to somebody of your gender. That is not forbidden at all. The prohibition is only upon the act. And even on the act, it's only prohibited upon the males, not upon the females. It's only prohibited upon the males. Rabbinically for the females as well, but as far as males, the act is absolutely forbidden. But there is nothing wrong with the fact that a man has a natural desire for female, and I've met many men with this, and those men in general have a very strong female side to them. They were born with very strong feminine qualities. Well, female likes male. They like male. Now, when that person marries, it's highly suggestive that they be set up with women who have a strong masculine part to them, that the woman has a strong male feel to her, and also vice versa, that the females who have a strong male element to them are going to be attracted to females as well, and that's okay. You're not to act out on that. You're to marry, and meaning our obligation, as far as I don't know, bringing children in the world or like fulfilling our lives as Jews in the community, is that ideally we're supposed to get married. So our job's to marry someone of the opposite anatomy, meaning you can marry. There's nothing wrong with a man here to marry a woman who's quite masculine. Now that won't work out so well down the line, meaning women who are masculine go very feminine when they turn about 38. Just like men go through like kind of an intense shift with their voices, and the men's puberty is quite intense compared to women's, and there's so much shifts for us because in a way men are born little boys. Like my little 8-year-old today, he's so snuggly. He's got a high voice like all his sisters, and he's just the most lovey-dovey little guy. He just happens to be a guy. He's not a little girl, but he certainly, if we dressed him as a little girl, it would work, But we have to make this shift to man, and a lot of men are not so graceful at that, for various reasons. But we're not going to go into those. It's just Western man is terrible at life transitions. We're not good at that. We think it's perfectly fine for a guy to play tennis all day at 50 years old, when really he's just never aged beyond 18. Like he hasn't gotten over the fact that life isn't about playing all day. So he still wants to play. Anyway, but those transitions are very powerful for men in their teens, and women go through a powerful transition in their late 30s. Some are a little earlier, around 36, but usually by around 40, women go through a big transition. So no matter how masculine they were, they're going major feminine around 38, 39, 40, and which is fine. That's beautiful, and it's very good for the man as long as he is a man. It's not so good for a man who's not much of a man, because now that she's like female, well, what's she looking for? She's looking for male. Well, male may not be available because of the more feminine husband, or what you get today after 75 years of feminism is you have men who would have been strong men. It's just that we've been taught to apologize for being men and let our wives call all the shots, which makes them crazy that we do that. But it's fun to have some power for a while, and so they go with the power. But later it totally backfires, and that's why, since feminism was brought into existence, much against Jewish values, women for the first time in history that I know of. I mean, they say it's the first time in history, and I've noticed when Googling it that women are actually trading in their men at that age. They're dumping their husbands at that age, and there may even be a couple of kids in here whose parents got divorced around that age. But the wife dumps him, and what's amazing is that all the legislation's in the favor of which one, the man or the woman? Legislation?
Woman.
Oh yeah, you get a restraining order in 2 minutes in some states. Next thing you know, the guy's got a restraining order based on her saying, "I'm afraid," and of course her lawyer told her, "Tell him you're afraid." What am I afraid of? Just tell him you're afraid. I'll get the restraining order. Your job, say I'm afraid. Well, what am I afraid of? I'm married to a girl. I'm supposed to be afraid of him? She's like, you either follow instructions or get another lawyer. And next thing you know, the guy's got a restraining order. Now he's not allowed anywhere near his wife and kids. Well, if you live in a small town, good luck. And next thing you know, he's under arrest because they wound up in the drugstore at the same time. There's only one drugstore. What is he supposed to do? So anyway, the legislation's all in favor of the women here, and the men in the end are the oppressed by the female tyrants of their legislation. And I've met so many of these disenfranchised men who can't even see their own children, and it's just horrific. And Google it yourselves. Go see the suicide rates. Go check out the male suicide rates of divorced men. It's all the facts are there. I'm not making this stuff up. We're living in crazy times. But for everyone listening to this, everyone in the room, and everyone watching this, and I don't care if you're secular or Hasidic, or Litvish for that matter, or Sephardish for that matter, is men have to learn how to be men for their wives. Maybe not while you're in your 20s, but once you hit the mid-30s, man, you better learn a thing or two about what it is to be the man in the marriage. And because otherwise, things are going to go south quick. And you should know, when women lose respect, they lose attraction. When they have respect, they're attracted. Those things go together. Respect and attraction, they're always together. No respect, no attraction. Respect is attraction. So, I've had a lot of couples coming to me, and one of my first questions when I see the little guy and this big lady is the first thing I ask is like, so how often do you cohabitate? And they're like, well, we stopped about 2 years ago. Well, in Judaism, that's not even called married, because in Judaism, the law is, we keep halacha in Judaism, the law is that you're never allowed to cohabitate with your spouse less than twice a week. Less than twice a week. Never less than twice a week. And in the secular world, this is one of the best kept secrets in the world. A lot of people don't know this, you can Google this as well, is that in the secular world, Western world, after 6 weeks of marriage, people are only together once in every 6 weeks. Okay? How many times is that a year? What's once in every 6 weeks? Easy math. What is it, 12 times? It's 12 times a year. Yeah? Anyone looking forward to that? No, once in every 6 weeks.
9 times.
9 times a year? It's 9 times a year. Sound like fun? In the Jewish world, you can never be together with your spouse less than twice a week. Twice a week. Now, if you do the math, not including obviously menstruation, but most observant women at least don't menstruate because they're always pregnant and nursing. At least in my community, it's like most of my friends, they can count the amount of times they had to separate from their wife on one hand in 20 years. I asked them to do it once in a while we're in shul. Just kidding. So, anyway, the numbers work out if you keep it all even.
96.
It comes out 12 times more. 12 times more. That's enough to send you guys to the local tzitzis store. I mean, you might as well just sign up because I know what you got on your brain. And if you know that and it's funny how opposite it is, meaning you're all thinking that Judaism's here to govern your sexuality, to slow you down in sexuality, and yeah, that may be true while you're single, but it's actually here to soup you up. It's here to give you the Lamborghini, and send you out on the Autobahn, where there's no speed limit. And Judaism's actually very, very pro when it comes to cohabitation with one's spouse. And in fact, there's all kinds of laws set up just to make sure nothing even gets in the way of that. And people are extremely lenient. Rabbis are extremely lenient when discussing things that will get the couple together. If we can get them together tonight. What's the big deal, man? They already got 12 kids. They got to get together tonight? Yeah. Yes, they have to be together tonight. And says the rabbi. The couple's like, okay, if we can't be, meaning it's a discussion of halachic discussion. I'm not going to give you what that discussion might be, but it's a halachic discussion. And they're going to go as lenient as possible for this couple in their 50s, that they should be together that night. Now, a lot of you are going like, what are the rabbis doing that involved in people's bedrooms? And the answer is that Judaism's involved in everything. There's no subject that it's not involved in. And I was just thinking about an important point, and that is that, just another one that Rabbi Monty Berger says a lot, is that in the secular world, a wife is her husband's jailer, meaning she has him in jail. And in Judaism, the wife is the husband's liberator. She's a wife in the secular world is the husband's sexual jailer. She's the warden. And in Judaism, the wife is the husband's sexual liberator. Why? Because a secular man, what keeps him from doing whatever the hell he wants on a business trip or wherever he goes on his way home from work? What stops him? Who's got him in that jail? His wife. Hopefully. Hopefully. But what keeps a man who's Jewish, like all the single men in this room, what keeps you sexually chaste? What keeps you sexually jailed? The answer is God, your relationship with God. Who liberates you? Your wife. She's the liberator. So your wife is your sexual liberator in Judaism. Or in the secular world, your wife is your sexual jailer. You ever thought about that? Y'all thought about that? Well, you got a lot to think about after today's class. You got a lot to think about. One thing's for sure is that the Torah, which literally means instructions. Torah means instructions. So these are not man-made. This is not a man-made system here. This is a God-made system. Well, meaning, in other words, this is the owner's manual for the planet. And we are definitely the pinnacle of the planet. I mean, there's nothing like people. Cats and dogs are interesting. Fish are always beautiful, and especially saltwater. And birds are fascinating. But there's nothing like human beings. But boy, do we need an owner's manual. We need the user's manual. And the Torah is exactly that. It's an instruction manual. And in fact, we call it Torah's Chaim, which a lot of people call Torah of life. Torat Chaim, Torah of life. But what does it mean literally if you translate the word Torah as what it means? Instructions. Instructions for living. Torah's Chaim is instructions for living. God made us, man. He made us. He knows what he's doing. He's the one who gave us tears when we cry. I mean, birds don't have tears when they cry. They have tears for lubricating their eyes. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to move their eyes. They got just enough tears to move their eyes. But we can produce 1,000 times that amount of tears just to wash ourselves clean of our pain. God knows what he's doing when he makes things. He knows how to deal with ants, and he knows how to deal with anteaters, and he knows how to deal with cheetahs, and he knows how to deal with elephants. And he knows how to deal with human beings, and he made us with those tear ducts that can produce not only the amount of tears to lubricate the eye, but the amount of tears to get rid of your pain so you can cry out buckets of tears. And we have an instruction manual how to live our lives and when to take your pants off and when to keep them on. And when to pull it up a notch and make it a little tighter. He tells you when to take a hot bath, and he tells you when to take a cold shower. And to wait. Keep yourself pure for the person who will dedicate his or her whole life to you. The least we could give the person who dedicates their whole life to you is some purity. That's the least we can do. This person's going to be dedicating everything. They sacrifice every person on the planet for you. And they will sacrifice everything they got to do. If you need it bad enough, they're going to sacrifice what they wanted for you. They're going to spend their whole life dedicated to you. The least we can do for them is to dedicate ourselves. And that's why the covenant's called the bris. Why it's on that part of the male body. Why did God put the covenant there? And the answer is that's where the power is. A strong person is someone who's got control over himself. Someone you see beating someone up, a big powerful gym guy beating someone up on Ben Yehuda Street, that is not a strong man. That is a man with no strength. He has no strength. A strong man is someone who has control over himself. That is the strong man. And so God puts the covenant there because because he's saying that that part of the body is sanctified. And that's our biggest desire. That part of the body is the most desire. It's the most desire for transgression. It's the most desire for just bodily function, and that's the spot. And so he puts the covenant there, because if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. New York, New York. If you can get that under control, the epicenter of desire, if you've got that under grips, and not literally, if you've got that under control, and you've got the relationship with God, therefore, so now you have strength for anything else. I mean, it's easy to keep kosher if you're able to do that. It's easy to keep Shabbat if you're able to do that. If you're able to keep yourself sexually pure, all the rest of Judaism's easy, comparatively. And so that's where the covenant is, because he's saying, I'm making my covenant there, so that you keep the covenant, and then everything else goes smoothly in your life. Your Judaism goes easy once you get there. But what happens to men who can't stay strong there is you find them weak on everything. You find them weak on everything. Once you're weak there, you're weak everywhere. Your muscles just start hanging down there like Popeye without spinach. Yeah, you're just like, you ain't got no muscles, buddy. Yeah, until you got strength there, you're never going to be able to handle Judaism. Judaism's got too much it asks of you. And hence the covenant is on the one place where if you can nail it, if you can nail that spot down, you got your control over there, you got your strength built up, well, everything else is easy. But if you don't got that down, then, it's just going to be a burden. Judaism's a burden for someone who doesn't have this sexuality together. I just want to mention one more thing before we finish, and that is that that this goes for heterosexuals as well, total heterosexuals. Because you'll notice, like, for example, once in a while I'm speaking to fraternity groups. Speaking of fraternity groups, I got a group of 40 frat guys, here, API or whatever, ZBT or whatever those names are of the Jewish frats. So I got 40 frat guys. Now tell me what's on their mind. Okay, don't tell me what's on their mind. And now, how often is it on their mind? It's on their mind all the time. That's basically all they think about. And it's literally from when they wake up till they go to sleep, from the clothes they wear, from the way they do their hair, from the job they have, the car they drive, the place they'll frequent. It is a total, all-encompassing mind clamp. And they're exactly the same as the Kaddish. And by the way, it's deviant of the heterosexual mandate of Torah. Torah mandates heterosexuality, but not just heterosexuality. Marriage, sexuality is for marriage. You have to be committed. You need that insurance policy on your ring finger. Before you get involved with sexuality, there's got to be an insurance policy that someone's not going to leave you on the side of the highway. Sexuality is powerful, and it requires a covenant between you and another person in order for it to be what's called normative in Judaism, and for it to work, for it to last. You need insurance. And whenever I hear someone say they got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, I'm just like, do you have no self-esteem at all? Like, are you that far gone? I mean, are you really that low that you would give yourself over to somebody who's basically saying the following: well, you're the best I've got right now, so, unless something goes wrong, with your behavior or any of the way you act, talk, look, say, wait, whatever, I guess I'll stay with you unless, of course, also something better comes along, at which point I'll be out of here. And how low self-esteem can you possibly have to be a boyfriend or a girlfriend of somebody? Why don't you just go rob a bank and go to a shrink 4 hours a day every single day until you get your, not that would help, but till you get some self-esteem. All someone has to say, oh yeah, so my girlfriend and I, or, So I have a boyfriend. We've been going out for so. I'm like, don't you have any self-worth? Don't you hold at all of yourself? That you're willing to give yourself to somebody who, if something better came along, would just hit the road? Or if you somehow revealed what it really takes to hold you, he would run for his life? And so you just kind of unconsciously withhold what it really takes. Why do you think they all break up when they finally get married? You know, these long-term relationships, then they get married and they get divorced. They often get divorced. They're much more likely to live with someone and get divorced after than not live with someone and not even really be together with them and marry and then be together. That you're much more likely to stay married to that person. It's because that when you date somebody as a boyfriend or girlfriend, what you're basically doing is unconsciously withholding what it truly takes to hold you. It's not simple to hold a person. And so you unconsciously withhold what it really takes in the name of love, which is a joke. It's not love. Love is holding somebody's weight, all their weight. I hold all the weight of my children. I hold all the weight of my wife. All of it. Whatever she's going to go through, I'm going to go through that with her. Whatever it takes to be her spouse, I'm there. All of it. And what happens is these couples, after their long-term relationship, they get married, and then you can't help it. Now the insurance policy's on the finger. So what do? You just kind of, next thing you know, you're just kind of like, your weight just kind of lands on that person. The person's like, what the hell, man? Like, that wasn't who I married. You're like, I don't know what it is. Meaning the spouse, like, I don't know. You know, this is who I am, I guess. You know, and they're like, well, I don't like that. Where was it before? And the answer is you unconsciously withhold your weight when you date. And this is why it's so important to never touch a person before you marry them, because the second you touch, you've lost all objectivity. And you also don't share your feelings about the person. Don't share your feelings. Tell a third party what you thought about the date. Let that other person tell the third party what they thought about the date. But don't lose your objectivity by, how many of us have been in relationships with someone that they were dead in relation, in the end they died, all because that person said, I love you. The person hugged me, or the person did this to me, or that to me, or I did this to them, or whatever. And they're like, it's a terrible relationship, but, after they said, I love you, people don't say that usually, so since it was said, so I'll stick around. When if you had never touched, and you had never shared those feelings, but only objectively figured out if this is someone you want to be spending your life with, you would literally, within a week or two, know whether you should be wasting your time with this. And how many people have I met who got over the hill, which I'm sad to say such a thing, but meaning they lost the, there's the area before and the area after of like the prime time to get married in everyone's lives. And what that number is, who knows? But there's a time before you want to grab that time, and then there's the time after where it's harder to get it because you start to feel desperate, and desperate's heavy or light? Very heavy. People don't want to bear that kind of weight. And so it's very important that the people on the other side never come in desperate. You always date from a position of like, here's the passenger seat. I'm going 80, man. I'm living a great life. I'm fine. You want to sit in the passenger seat? Jump in. You don't? Fine. No skin off my back. And so the person feels, hey, wow, this person's like, they're doing pretty good without me. So why don't we just add them to the equation? What if I added myself to the equation of this great person? Whereas when people date on the other side of the hill, so they date from a much more desperate place, and it's kind of a heavy thing to get in their car. I'm not sure you want to get in that person's car. And so, but back to the objectivity and subjectivity, is that it's hard to make a good decision subjectively. Everyone knows that. If you make a bad decision investing, but you're going to go in stages of your investment, but you've already put in a quarter of the money you're planning to invest, the likelihood of you putting in that next quarter is much higher because you've already put one quarter. You're in. You got investment. And so therefore you want to invest almost nothing when you date somebody. All you want to do is find out if this person's someone you want to invest in. That's all. Is this where you want to be putting all your energy? If the answer is yes, so keep figuring it out, but don't invest. And when you finally figure it out, give everything. Do your full investment. It's a little scarier than a financial investment, but you definitely want, if it's scarier, then all the more objective you must be. If it's heavier, if it's more consequence. I mean, what is more consequence? Investing $1 million or getting married? Which one? Which is a bigger consequence? Marriage is a much bigger consequence. Yet how many people get married objectively? The answer is the very observant Jews. They get married objectively, no one else. That's it. Anyway, I bless everybody that when you do date, that the sparks fly, because no one can mistake those. Like when the third party's like, how was it? You're like, it was amazing. And the other one's like, it was amazing. Why are they both saying it was amazing? Like they've only seen each other once and it was for an hour and a half, 2 hours. The answer is because sparks flying are like, they're you can't deny the sparks flying. When sparks fly between a couple, you can cut it with a knife. So everyone should say amen to the following, that when you do date, I bless you that the sparks fly. Say amen. And if they don't, so keep going out. Keep going out. Now, you don't even have to have the sparks fly, because one of the great things of marriage is sparks fly over the times of growing together and building a home together. Not everyone's so lucky to have the sparks fly while dating. You don't always get that, and you can't expect it, but certainly very cool when you got it, because then it takes away a lot of the doubt, is to have the sparks fly. It makes it less scary. But then again, it's nice to go under the chuppah with some faith, meaning with some hope, with some prayer, like maybe this is it. My wife and I never prayed to marry each other. We're into prayer, like we prayed a lot. In those days, we were doing a lot of prayer, and I never prayed to marry her, and she never prayed to marry me, ever, in all those prayers. We only prayed to marry the right person. Even on our chuppah, she was praying in the college chair, and I was praying by the men, and I was like, God, you got about a half hour to work this out. Because if I'm not supposed to marry this girl, you got a half hour left. But please, my true soulmate. Now, the second I put that ring on her finger, then our prayers were for each other, like that the two of us should be bonded forever. But not until the ring was on there. Because I don't want something God doesn't want. If God doesn't want it, I don't want it. And we all have to think about ourselves and what is it inside us that wants stuff God doesn't want? Like what's going on with us when we want what God doesn't want? And that's a serious look in the mirror. Why do you want what God doesn't want for you? The answer can only be the ego. It's just, I'm in a boxing match with God. I'm fighting him on this one. Well, good luck feeling Shabbos. What is Shabbos? Shabbos is like, get your fingers off that crackberry smartphone of yours and just feminize yourself and just be the female in this relationship with God. A lot of people think Aish Chayil is for our wives. Aish Chayil is about the Jewish people, men and women, are the good wife. And then what do we do in Aish Chayil? We go on to list a bunch of things that are forbidden to do on Shabbos. Like, why are we talking about all these malachas on Shabbos? Like, we're talking about things you can't do on Shabbos throughout the thing. Because what's it saying? A good wife, who can find? And the answer, no one can find her, because she's keeping Shabbos. She's not doing all this stuff. Meaning the Jewish people aren't doing all this stuff. They're dedicated to God. They're putting God first, rather than the ego first. And that's why we sing Aish Chayil every Shabbat right before the dinner. God's first. He's before our sexuality. He's before everything, really. So may we all be blessed to have our minds and hearts straight, clear, and not just us, but everyone out there, including all those people at the big parade today. May they be blessed to have themselves in the right place, the right frame of mind. And I mentioned August 12th already is the women's seminar, and webinars coming soon. Shalom, everybody. Oh, wait. We always raise money for our family. This class feeds a family. And the rabbi there's a rabbi outside the window. He takes the money. So anything that folds, this rabbi takes money. Anything that folds buys fish and meat, and change buys like drinks and stuff. So please, everybody, just give something. Like you'll enjoy your Shabbos more, knowing that you helped a family eat Shabbos. Okay? So please, everyone, kick down a little bit of money for Shabbos.
First one, I don't think this is what you're saying, but just to clarify, were you saying that homosexual men should marry masculine women, as in like they should get married to women even if they don't have attraction to women?
Yeah, they'll be pretty attractive to a masculine woman. But anyway, men, you never have to worry about sexual attraction in men, though. That you don't have to worry about. You know why? Because the sexual orientation of men, I'm glad we're not recording now. The sexual orientation of men is free. They don't really care that much where it comes from. So now obviously a woman would prefer that her husband's really attracted to her and stuff. And men who are homosexual and date women, they let them know. Like they tell them.
I don't know. I know personally a bunch of stories where people got gay people got married and then
Yeah, but he was probably in the closet.
Not always.
Or she.
Not always.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, but that's unique. Like, you can't use that as
in I don't think. And
because a full man is never going to let.
Well, in the Orthodox world, you think like people are going to be like, oh yeah, I'm gay, but I want to marry you, yeah, for sure. Like no woman is going to want to marry someone
They're
who's
out
gay.
there, man. They're out there. Almost every gay student I've ever had at Aish is today happily married. They're fully married. There's women who will marry a gay man.
Isn't that really messed up?
What's messed up about it?
That the forcing people to
No one's forcing anybody.
No, as in
Every bottle has its cap. I'm personally surprised the girl was willing to marry the guy, but she was, and I actually was involved a little bit, and she was a remarkable woman.
Are you talking about one case or many cases?
Many cases. Many cases.
And
I don't know of any divorces amongst them, because everything was out in the open. You know what you're getting. When a marriage is foundationally based on truth, like everyone was open and honest and totally transparent, it's much different than when someone's got a little secret. And by the way, I know a lot of couples that are broken up. Not people that I was close to, but a lot of couples that broke up where someone had something going on in the closet.
Yeah.
There's even a whole house of women in Muncie.
Yeah.
The house of women.
I don't know.
Freaked out about it.
As
All
in
married
that's what
Hasidic ladies who have left their husbands and lived together in Muncie. That's pretty yucky. That's yuck.
I find it just as sad that they're made to marry guys in the first place.
What's that?
I find it more horrible that they're made to act in a way that is just not who they are in the first place.
Who?
As in, you're saying that they were lesbian, or that their husbands were gay?
The wives were lesbian.
Yeah. So, why were they marrying guys in the first place?
They were just young and dumb. They were 17 years old and got engaged. And you're following your sister. Your sister is 2 years older, and that's what she did. That's what you do. And we're talking about Swedish intense Hasidic, Stanford Hill style.
That's fine. I
So that's the way it goes.
Okay.
But there's always going to be exceptions. Meaning exceptions.
So
there's going to be couples that are going to break up.
When gay guys come up to you, you say oh no, you should marry women. That's what your advice to them is.
And then what happens is they go. I'm talking about Aish guys in this class. So they go celibate they stay at Aish for a year or 2 or 3. They become celibate, and then when they're ready, they know a lot of Torah now, and they're very dedicated because they're dedicated to God and Torah. Sexuality's taken a total neutral thing. And again, the man's sexual identity is friction, as I said before. So she can certainly provide that.
Right.
And now, would most women not be interested? You're coming in an interesting time. We did today's class on sexual identity. Would most women never in their lives? I mean, would you ever marry a guy like that? Most women want their husband to be crazy about them sexually. But there are some women. Some women don't. Obviously, there's women who are.
And then there's repulsed.
There's women who are willing, and they're willing to do that, and they're. So far, all the couples that came through Aish are great. They're happily married. So a lot of them are rabbis today, running branches of Aish Torah and stuff. They're all good.
Yeah.
They're all good.
They're
fun.
Grossed out of the thought, but anyway, I might just do my own thing. And then also, so I wanted to know if there was any source for this.
Source for what?
So basically, I have this theory that I was thinking about, but I don't know if it's. I know the first part. I know that in Kabbalah